So let's dive in. Let's do an extensive dive now on Chiefs Eagles. Super Bowl 57 will take place in Arizona. So right before we went live, and by right before when this game ended, Kansas City and Cincinnati, the Chiefs opened as 1.5-point favorites. And then money fly Eagles fly. It flew in on Philadelphia as a dog. And now the line has flipped. Our sponsor, FanDuel, the Eagles are favorites at -1.5. Elsewhere, you might see some 2.5s. So whatever time you're listening, if it's Monday morning, maybe there's changes at this point. But as we come to you live early in the morning, very early in the morning on Monday, the Eagles are 1.5-point favorites now over at FanDuel. Total set at 49.5. Jill, I'll go to you first. I know there's no anytime touchdown market posted, which
sure.
Actually, I mean, I'm assuming you'd know the answer to this. When does that market post? And I'm asking more so because of the Super Bowl. I know there's more of a window now to bet on it, but when might we see a touchdown market? And just your thoughts on the total spread, whatever direction you'd like to go.
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, books like FanDuel have gotten really aggressive, and rightfully so, they should, and get the touchdown odds up earlier. Now, there might be some injury question marks, but I think FanDuel will overlook that. I'd probably say by Tuesday at the latest, they'll likely have some touchdown score odds up, and then more props will trickle out, because usually the touchdown score props are actually the first ones coming up before we start to see, yardage props, reception props, all that kind of stuff. The one thing that's actually kind of fun, they actually do have some fun specials right now. Just will there be a return for a punt or a kickoff for a touchdown at 12-1, just on both, to have both sides covered on that. That's actually a pretty good value proposition. Another one, this is one that I wouldn't bet, but again, if people want to have fun with it, it's the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say no, but there's one for a big man touchdown, so an offensive lineman to score a touchdown. That's at 37-1. Now, I'll just say from an implied probability standpoint, that does not match up with the value at all. That should probably be closer to like 50-1, maybe 60-1. So just tread carefully. But again, this is a Super Bowl. You should have some fun and make sure to look at some props as you're going. Now, from a total standpoint, sitting at 49.5, my gut immediately thinks to take the under, just because of what we saw today, and how both offenses might actually have a little bit of a struggle, but also how both defenses, the Eagles specifically, much stronger, where if they could have those long depth plays and drives like you were just describing, these 8-minute drives and grinding out half of the game, we might only see combined 4 touchdowns, between both teams. So, if 5 even at the most, you're still going to fall way below this 49.5. So that would probably be my initial instinct. And then, as you saw the line come out, you saw the Chiefs kind of open up. You could tell the sports books, like, they didn't want to basically just hand over Mahomes as an underdog for people to just run buck wild, but at the same time, they knew they couldn't put it as too aggressive of a line. So you were sitting there at -2, and then it immediately steams back towards the Eagles. The market kind of dictates that, and now the Eagles up to -2.5 at some spots. We're sitting right now at -1.5 FanDuel right now, so the best line to be able to get the Eagles if you're going to be looking at them. And we do have at least a recent matchup to look at between these two teams, even though some of the characters have changed. Tyreek Hill is no longer on the Chiefs, but they did play each other last year in Philadelphia in Week 4. And the final score, you would think it was a blowout. It finished Chiefs 42-30, but it was actually fairly close. It was 28-23 entering the fourth quarter, and then Tyreek Hill just goes nuclear, as he does, and catches a 45-yard touchdown, a 12-yard touchdown. And before you know it, the Chiefs are blowing them out, as they say. So I think this game is going to be a lot closer than, the spread is already indicating that. I don't think either team is going to get blown out, similar to what we saw in the games in Philadelphia so far. But I do find it very interesting that the market is immediately saying, no, this Eagles team is the one that we're going to be backing.
Brandon, what do you think? Yeah. Line is at 1.5. Eagles are favorites now. Total 49.5.
Yeah, we're going to hear, you're going to hear, obviously, we'll get all the storylines. We get 2 weeks to do every storyline in the world. We're going to get a lot of injury updates. I think, again, like we said last week, I'm not necessarily running to bet aside here, because I think that the line's going to bounce around. We get injuries. We don't know how healthy either of the quarterbacks are. We don't know what version of Mahomes or Hurts we're going to get necessarily. Plus, there's a lot of other guys. Less for the Eagles now, but we're waiting on those Chiefs receivers. We got to see what happens with Snead. Willie Gay is a question mark. There are a lot of Chiefs injuries. Maybe Travis Kelce, who knows? Like, these are key guys and key players in where the line goes. It's very fascinating where the line sits right now to me, just from a line perspective. I like the Eagles, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I like them for now. I'm not running to bet it, but at 2.5, it's like normally if you saw a 2.5, that would be a prime hot read because you think, well, I want that side. I better grab it now. It's going to move to a 3, hit the key number, maybe get past it. Better go get it. Do we think it's going to really get to a -3? Because -3 Eagles is +3 Patrick Mahomes. And I have to believe if any book out there, FanDuel or otherwise, gives us a +3 on Mahomes, that public money is going to just be pouring in on Pat. And it's going to come fast. And I think it's going to bounce right back down below the key. So I think if you want the Eagles, I don't know you have to go here because look what just happened with the Bengals and Chiefs. And tell me if I'm crazy to have this idea. I kind of wish I did it this week and I missed out on it. We saw earlier this week the Chiefs open as favorites, like they did briefly here for the Super Bowl. Then the line went all the way to Bengals being favored. Oh no, Patrick's hurt. The Bengals are good. And then everyone was like, public money. Here comes Mahomes as an underdog. And then we got all the way back to 2.5 in favor of the Chiefs again. So the Chiefs are the money line underdog right now at plus, what are we at on FanDuel? Is it like plus 115 right now?
Plus 108 is what I'm seeing.
Plus 108. So that's dropped. I think it was plus 111 something earlier. What do we think about what if my play for the Super Bowl is just grabbing right now the best Chiefs money line I can get, then waiting and just playing the line? No angles, no analysis, just play the line. Give me the Chiefs plus money, or the money line at plus money. And then later on, when we get there in the next 2 weeks, when some injury, blah, blah, blah happens and the public money comes on the Chiefs, and then we get to a plus 100 or a plus money on the Eagles, just like what happened here today. Now just take that side. I'm out. I don't have to do any analysis. I don't care who wins. I'll just take my free money on either side of the game. Easiest money I ever made. I kind of wish I did that this week in the Chiefs Bengals game. Am I crazy to think that we might have that as an option here?
I mean, you didn't have this scenario last year, right? With the Rams and the Bengals. Last year it was Rams -4. And they won, of course, outright. So a lot of folks ended up betting the Rams money line, but the Bengals did get their covering in terms of a side. But no, you didn't get a scenario like this where the money line number was close to even on both sides. Jill, you got a response to that?
Well, I mean, again, the injuries is just really what is going to make this hold up. Like even last year, there was no injury question about Stafford. There was no injury question about Burrow. You know, you might have saw a little bit of like, oh, will Odell Beckham play? But that's not really going to move the line. There was no consequential injury that we had to kind of monitor over the 2 weeks. And that's going to be a storyline that's going to be driven into our heads repeatedly over the next 2 weeks. But I actually have an impromptu poll question for both of you. Which storyline do you think will be driven into the ground the most over the next 2 weeks? So I'll give you 3 options. The first one, Patrick Mahomes is an underdog? Wow. Number 2, Andy Reid used to coach the Eagles. Or number 3, the classic, Travis and Jason Kelce are brothers? Literally, like, I'm just...
Oh,
stay away from media coverage, like maybe like Media Week, because I just did all of your work for you. Like you don't have to see any of that.
Some of that stuff's kind of adorable and cute, you know. Kelce will get asked a question when it's Chiefs media availability on Radio Row, whatever. That is the direct week of the game, correct? When they all travel out there.
Yeah. And they're just going to be like, hey, ask his mom, like, who are you rooting for in the game? Like, just the classic. Who cares?
Oh, where were you when you watched the Harbaugh brothers go against each other?
Waiting for the Beyonce concert, I guess.
Are we at like -1,000 that we get mom in the stands with the half jersey, right? Like the Chiefs Kelce and the Eagles jersey half and half. Like the odds on that are just off the board that we're getting that. But like I think the Kelce battle is the big one because Jason Kelsey, the one that people will less focus on, he's just along for the ride to make the Kelsey battle. He is the best center in the NFL, and he's the guy who gets to block Chris Jones. And I think that could be the key matchup in the Super Bowl. Chris Jones just obliterated the entire Bengals remainder of their offensive line.
The corpse.
Jason Kelsey is not Karras and Volson, and I don't even know all the names of the guys that the Bengals had out there blocking. Jason Kelsey is really, really good. He's great pulling and opening up the run game. I think that is the equalizer. Look, we saw it last week with Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence obliterated my Vikings in the opening round. Then they played the Eagles, and I was like, oh, hey, was Dexter Lawrence playing today? I kind of don't remember, because Jason Kelsey blocked him all game. So I think, to me, that's the angle that, look, it's cute, it's fun. We're going to get sick of the whole Kelsey thing. But I think Jason might get the upper hand on Travis here because of that matchup. I mentioned I like the Eagles. Some of the reasons I like that, it's those trenches. I think the Eagles, if they win this game, and I think they will, it's going to be because of the trenches. Kansas City's offensive line only ranks 16th in passing protection for the season. 2 times all year, they played a top 8 pass rush twice, and it was Jacksonville both times, and they did not fare well. They did not really handle a pass rush well, and the Eagles' pass rush is number 1 with a bullet. Like, they are the best. Hassan Reddick was amazing today. They're going to get after Mahomes, and look, we saw today what we expected. Mahomes started out looking really great and then got a little gimpier as the game went along. We're going to have some version of that, I think, in the Super Bowl. So if you have a questionable line with a huge pass rush coming and a quarterback that any play suddenly throws the wrong direction or tweaks the ankle or something, I think that has to be a big advantage in the Eagles' favor. And then on the other side, you have this awesome, dominant run game, run blocking line against the Chiefs defense that today was fantastic against the run. I have to give them credit. Before today, the Chiefs faced only 2 teams all season with a positive run defense DVOA. They lost both those games, and they were 30th on defensive DVOA in those games. So if the Chiefs can't get off the field stopping the run, to me, the Eagles can do the physical, like we saw last week, Cincinnati to Buffalo, where you can't even get on the field. Josh Allen can't even do anything because there's just nothing happening in the trenches. To me, that's why I like the Eagles early on here. I think that the trenches are the matchups that Philadelphia really can win. I had a column at Action Network up last week. Who would you pick to play in the Super Bowl if you're each one of these teams? For Philadelphia, I had them picking the Chiefs for that reason. I thought winning in the trenches is where they could really do that. So I think that's a big thing. Chiefs are second to last in red zone defense. The Eagles are amazing red zone offense. We know the whole, like, here, Joe, here's a 4th storyline for you. That stupid Jalen Hurts rugby scrum play. I don't want to hear about the rugby scrum unstoppable play anymore. We're going to get one last game with that because I think they're going to get it out of the rules at the end of the season. But look, you can't stop it. Nobody has stopped it. And that's a big thing too, especially against a red zone defense that can't stop anyone. So I think that the Eagles win the trenches. A storyline that I want to look into, I don't have necessarily an angle I love here yet. If the Chiefs win, Mahomes is the MVP. We know this. This is what's going to happen. I don't think that's the case with the Eagles, especially if Jalen Hurts is not really at the top of his game like we saw today. I think if you like the Eagles, you might have a lot of fun trying to find who you think could be your interesting Super Bowl MVP. Maybe it's another runner. We've talked about Devontae Smith having a big game. AJ Brown, the Chiefs are bottom 5 against wide receiver 1. Jill, you're going to tell us to bet on somebody from the Eagles scoring out of the slot because it's the Chiefs, and this is what we do here on the show. We're going to have a lot of options. Somebody on the defense, Hassan Reddick has 2 or 3 sacks, or somebody else. Like, I think Eagles Super Bowl MVP is open. Like, it's like first day of hunting season, and it's open shooting out there, and we can just go crazy and find your long shot you like. I think that's going to be a fun one to look into.